Hello, I'm Eran Solomon, and in our last lesson we have talked about the Jewish Big Bang, which is actually not an explosion but an implosion, where the Creator's infinite light has retreated from a certain point and created a space which is called Halal HaTzimtzum, the space of contraction, a kind of void inside which all the worlds were created. Now the Arizal says in his Tree of Life in Etz Chaim that into that space the infinite light surrounding it began to re-enter the space, but this time not in one jolt, but gradually. And graduality is a very important term for our lesson. So the light began to re-enter, to infiltrate into the space as a narrow line through a hose of light, which is called HaKav, the line of Ein Sof, the line of infinity. So it commenced to re-enter that space, and as the line advanced into that space, all the worlds were created by means of that light. Now actually, this is the place, this is the stage where dimensions came into existence, directions, because before that you couldn't say up, down, right, left, but as this line began to enter, and the Arizal emphasizes that it was from one specific point, and only one line began to enter, then you could say up, down, everything which is closer to the surrounding infinite light is called up, and as the line proceeds towards the center of the space, you could say now that counts as going down, and also notions of closeness and distance are now coming into existence as the light going in goes further and further away from its source, which is the surrounding infinite light. Now, I want to emphasize now that this vision, which is really a vision of the greatest Kabbalistic rabbi, the Arizal, is not like a natural phenomenon which, when we observe, we can, through observation, divine the rules that govern the processes we see in that phenomenon. Because here everything is voluntary. Here everything depends on the will of Hashem, and of course no rules govern Hashem. On the contrary, this is the place where all rules were created. So it's not as if the light had to go because of some physical or metaphysical law in a certain way. It was his free will, and only Hashem has a really free will that we can talk about. Now here is a place which it is befitting to recall the Mishnah in Traktat Avot, in Masechet Avot, which says that Ba'asara ma'amarot nivra ha'olam. In 10 utterances, in 10 sayings, the world was created. U'ma Talmud lomar. And what? But what that wants to teach us. Va'alo b'ma'amar echad haya yachol libarot. Because it could have been created with one utterance. As it were, Hashem could have said, let there be a world, and there would have been a world. But, as we see in the first chapter in Genesis, in Bereshit, it begins with one utterance as to light, and then as to the skies, and the water, and everything. And indeed there are 10 times, or actually 9 times, where it says, Vayomer Elohim. But indeed, the question of the Masechet is, why wasn't everything created in one instance, in one utterance? And the reason is, it's not actually written in these words in the Mishnah, but the reason is that we need graduality. We cannot grasp anything but gradual things. If we are to appreciate the creation, we must be able to grasp it. And we cannot grasp anything that is instantaneous. So actually, this picture, which Arizal brings in his book, of, after the tzimtzum, after the contraction, a thin line entering gradually this space and creating the worlds, it's actually a Kabbalistic way to describe how the worlds were created in a gradual manner, and indeed only through the volition of Hashem that things should go gradual. And this also explains saying in the Zohar that Hashem is surrounding everything and is inside everything, because in this vision we see indeed that inside everything, inside the worlds, there is this thin line which is like a hose bringing water, bringing life to everything and causing everything to grow. But indeed, still and forever, there is also the surrounding infinite light, which is all around the space of tzimtzum, of the contraction, the space in which all the worlds are. So, through this vision we see that Hashem is inside everything, through this line, and surrounding everything through the surrounding infinite light. So all this really shows us how Hashem is both the closest to us, because He's inside everything, and the deeper we go inside everything, we're coming closer to Hashem, to this line of infinite light inside everything. And He is at the same time elevated and farthest from everything in the surrounding infinite light. And if we seek Hashem, we must seek Him either in the deepest parts of everything, inside ourselves. As we go deeper inside the soul, we come closer to that thin line of infinite light which gives life to everything, the soul of everything, and He is at the same time most elevated and distant from everything in that surrounding infinite light that surrounds everything. Now we have talked about tzimtzum, contraction, the retreating of the light from a certain space to create a place for the worlds. But is there really vacant place? Is the tzimtzum really, as it seems to be, a process in which a vacant place was created? That's actually a controversy among the sages of the Kabbalah, the Mekubalim, and I want to talk about that in the next lesson. So stay with us in our next lesson of A Guide to the Depths of the Torah. Bye for now.